Welcome, everybody, to the Old Gold Show. With you, as always, I'm your host, co-manager over at hammerandrails.com,
You want to
Andrew
do it
Ledman.
again, Ledman?
Nope, just let it go.
Okay, we're here. I'm Casey, uh, back from Providence. Bartley, Boiler Upload Rivals. See, I did that to be a friend. I
Yeah,
did
that's
that to
right.
make you feel not silly on the internet.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. So we are coming to you Monday evening. Purdue winners of two games in the NCAA tournament. That means they are moving on to the second weekend, heading to the Sweet 16, which this time for Purdue will be in the city of Indianapolis, Indiana, or as Chuck said on that one commercial a few years ago, Indianapolis. Uh, so we wound up in the wrong city. Anybody remember that commercial? I thought it
Nope,
was great. All
just the
right,
party of one.
that's fine. So Purdue has victories over the High Point Panthers and the McNeese Cowboys, 76 to 70 or 76 to 62 over McNeese, 75 to 63 over High Point. So overall, the High Point game much scarier and nerve-wracking if you're a Purdue fan. The McNeese game basically, easy, smooth sailing from the very beginning. Casey, just before we get into individual games and individual performances, is this where you expected Purdue to be when you saw the draw?
Ledman, that was what I was going to talk about. Is like the last two seasons. I'm a truth teller again. I'm no longer a liar to you.
Okay,
After a couple of years of talking you into Purdue and it not
you
going
did.
great in the March Madness, and there was a little Fairleigh Dickinson that happened. We're back. Purdue's back. National title game last year. I
Okay,
told you they'd make a Final Four.
you did.
Um, this year, I can't remember if my official declaration was Sweet 16 or Elite Eight.
I don't
Um,
remember either.
I feel I feel at the beginning of the year there was a lot of I had a lot of optimism and I thought Elite Eight was it. And then there were points this season where I had to really find a sternness in my chest and heart about continuing to believe this was a Sweet 16 team.
Right.
I was very confident going into the weekend, particularly when McNeese knocked off Clemson. Uh, even though they did it in a very convincing fashion, that game, as someone that
Did
sat,
they?
oh,
It
so
was a
you're just gonna
2 point
read the
game.
final score? You
Well,
just gonna read the final score? When was the last time Clemson had a lead in that game?
listen. I
Mhm.
understand they went into halftime up 31 to 13, but it is not as if that game did not get close in the final 2 minutes.
Yeah, it was a crazy concurrence of crazy stuff. So we finished up with locker room stuff towards the end of the first half, and I made my way back to the media seat to write while the game was happening. By the time I was there, Clemson was crapping the bed. They scored 13 points in the first half, Libman. McNeese
Yeah.
did that to a team. Clemson did
That
that
is that is two
also to a
points
team, their own team.
that is 2 points shy of the NCAA tournament low of 11 points that occurred just last season.
Yeah, so not great. But that is the potential McNeese showed. And really that last flurry was as much as it closed the gap to two.
It was chaos basketball.
It was chaos basketball. It was Clemson hitting a lot of shots they were missing
Yeah.
the whole game. It was as much the actual story of that game as Purdue's 19 turnovers were against McNeese.
Okay, I mean that's a fair point, but you know, I didn't think they looked terribly convincing in that victory. They looked good in the first half, but after that, it kind of dwindled away. But a win is a win in the NCAA tournament. That's why they say survive in advance. It doesn't really matter.
Right. And I mean, that was my point of feeling good going in. I didn't think McNeese was actually that big of a threat to Purdue.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Mostly, and this will be interesting when we talk about Houston later this week, because I thought a lot of it was just McNeese does not execute offensively. And I think sometimes we can conflate bad play in those games where Purdue was giving up, 20 of 22 inside the arc. Everyone was making it inside. as much as that is a Purdue issue, because it absolutely is, it also happened against teams that were executing at a very high level. We're talking a Wisconsin offense, which when good is as good as it gets.
Yeah,
Michigan's offense, with which can be really good. The Ohio State loss was a little different. It was also a back and forth game.
yeah.
Not so like there are obviously issues with Purdue, but I didn't feel McNeese with their lack of size, without execution, without really great shooting. I didn't think they pressed any of the real buttons that would have concerned me, frankly, like a Clemson team would have, because those guys in general, when they're not playing McNeese, usually pretty good at basketball.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've talked about this Painter quote before. Sometimes when you lose games, he's always like, the other team gets scholarships too.
Mm-hmm.
He said that once in a post game, and it's always stuck with me because every time you lose, you can look at your team and sure you've made mistakes. Even in this game against McNeese, Purdue turned it over 19 times. Didn't end up costing them, of course, but like it's not always about what you do. Sometimes your opponent is just flat out better.
Right.
You could play the best game of your lives and you could still lose because the people on the other side just have a little bit more than you. And that is the nature of sport. So I thought going into the McNeese game, I really wasn't worried. I
Which is
just
unnatural for you.
it,
You
it
are a
is
worrier. You're a
it,
fretter. Ledman, I've heard
I
people
am.
say, Andrew, that guy is a fretter.
I guarantee that has never been said. Never been said. Um Now the sentiment may have been
Mm-hmm.
said, but I mean, you watched that McNeese game, you saw kind of what they'd done throughout the season. You looked who they'd played, you looked at their statistical categories on Ken Palm and elsewhere, and you realize like they're not really what you would expect in a second round opponent. In general for the NCAA tournament, Purdue I think did get lucky that they took down Clemson, but I still would have been confident had Purdue played Clemson, but it was I did not expect the game to go that well for Purdue. I did not expect them to lead nearly from start to finish. McNeese was up 3-2 after their first possession, but then after that it was just off to the races. Purdue got up by 26, and in that second half, I mean, it was just a completely comfortable game, reminiscent of the Utah State game from last year's NCAA tournament run.
Yeah, and I think in similar capacity, just looking at the a weekend as a whole as two games, I thought Purdue did a really good job of executing. I thought High Point was like they
Yeah.
were impressive. I thought High Point was good. They did stuff like they challenged Purdue for that first half. They never really let Purdue blow it away, which I thought is like that's a good sign of a good team.
Hmm.
But I really thought Purdue found things, particularly the rebounding, which is going to
Yeah.
be pivotal against Houston. And that's a thing that we've kind of seen even while they were losing late. They were trending towards being a better rebounding team. I think one of the interesting things and where Purdue's kind of behind the narrative, just in the sense that the media is still kind of caught up in what Purdue's always been, is they looked at McNeese and they're like, these guys are athletic. They can go rebound. When Purdue brings Miles Colvin and Camden Heide out on the floor, they're huge
Yeah.
and they're uber athletic.
Yeah.
Smith is the quickest guy on the court. Colvin and Heide, especially playing with the way they're playing, the energy on the glass. Purdue is a team that you're like, our problem is physically, we have a hard time keeping them off the glass on both ends. CJ Cox is a really good rebounding guard. Jakari Harris, 8 rebounds in 15 minutes against High Point. Like these are guys that are going at it. And really, Purdue won handily, certainly against McNeese. I think they handled, it wasn't a handedly win, but they handled High Point.
Yeah.
All why Braden Smith didn't play great. And I
No,
want to
not
come
in either
back to
game.
that because I think there's an interesting Braden Smith, Trey Kaufman-Ren discussion to be had. But like when you just look at the raw numbers and you look what Braden Smith can do, I don't think he was great by any stretch of the
No,
imagination. I
no,
thought
I
he made some winning
agree.
plays. I thought defensively he was really good.
Yeah, especially at the
Uh,
beginning of that McNeese game. I mean, the effort and energy of everybody was so much different than what we saw in the Big Ten tournament. You and I were both there and we were watching, and Purdue, they even commented after that USC game, the energy just was off to start the game. There was something going on. And they turned it around a little bit in the second half, just enough to win. But the way they started that game against McNeese was just a 180 from what you saw in the Big Ten tournament. And I want to highlight something you just said about the rebounding. Purdue, between the two games over the weekend, plus 38 rebounding.
ooh.
Uh, I mean, that is just unheard of. And so much of that is effort, and so much of that is coming from guys like Cam Heide, guys like Miles Colvin, who are coming off the bench, doing a really great job. And even if they're not getting the rebounds, they're doing a good job of putting a body on somebody to making sure their guy doesn't, and that opens it up for somebody else. I mean, in that McNeese game, Trey Kaufman-Ren had 15 rebounds. Trey Kaufman-Ren is not a great rebounder when you look at him, statistically through his career. That's not really his
Mm.
strong suit. Um, but yet he grabbed 15 in that game against McNeese. And I think that just highlights what the other folks around him can do. When you see, I mean, Caleb First didn't really have a good game in either of these McNeese or High Point games, but
Didn't
that was
play.
to the benefit. Yeah, he didn't hardly play. I think it was like 9 minutes and 12 minutes, something like
Yep.
that. But that's then to the benefit of guys like Miles Colvin, Camden Heide, even Jakari Harris a little bit, depending on how they tweak the lineups. But you really have seen those three grow into their roles as the season has progressed, and they're just playing better and better in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, I want to highlight a couple things that Matt Painter said after the game. I thought he was very, um, you know, Matt Painter at his best, being honest about Trey Kaufman-Ren after the 15 rebound performance, especially in the hallway after us talking after the meeting
Is
went
that
off.
when is that when he was cursing out the refs and saying, "I
Yeah,
hope
yeah,
they don't screw you, like they
right,
screwed us," because I
right,
that's what coaches do, right?
yeah. And he was
Yeah.
talking, I
Okay.
think, about the United Nations. Right.
Yeah.
That's yeah.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah.
but Painter pretty much said, for Trey to get 15 rebounds, there's been so many games this year where he has 23 and 3,
Yeah. Or yeah.
30 and
Four.
6. And he pretty much said the reason that Trey's not on these All-American lists is that rebounding number is so low.
That's probably
And
true.
he's like, if it's 8 or 9 a game to go with 20, like that makes a difference. That's the difference between, especially when you're on a team with an All-American already, you're gonna get dismissed a little when you're a big guy that doesn't rebound. He rebounded that game against McNeese. He rebounded pretty well against High Point. In general, has had a better focus on that. I mean, offensively, particularly, he's been a beast at that end. And that is kind of the one thing that was lacking from his game that you
Yeah.
can expect. Because like he's never gonna be a shot blocker.
Although he had one really good one
One
in
block,
this game. Yep.
one block. Um, but like there's no reason he can't be better on the boards.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder how much of his hesitancy is foul related, because you saw him, and I mean, I know this wasn't an example of rebounding, but you saw him on one offensive possession, basically just kind of like step to the side and let his guy go to get the easy bucket, which I thought was the right decision, because you don't want to get a stupid foul when the guy is going to score anyway. I know rebounding obviously quite a bit different, but as so much of it is effort, you don't want to get called for those ticky tack fouls, and then suddenly you're either your team's first or second most important player, and you're sitting on the bench because of a stupid foul.
Yeah, it's just a lot of time those rebounding fouls are because you're showing late effort.
True.
You're
Yeah,
not getting called fouled very often if you're on the ball right away or blocking out. Like that's not really
it's
when
a
it
fair
comes.
point.
It's more so when you're like, oh, I should have been there. Let me try to
Right.
get
And then,
there.
yeah, grab somebody.
Yeah. So I like it's obviously he needs to play smart with fouls and he hasn't done a great job of it. But yeah, I just think in general his energy was so much better on the glass. And if you look at Ken Palm right now, Braden Smith fell off the top 10 player player list for Ken Palm.
Oh, did he?
He's fallen off. He was up as high as 3 for parts of the season. When you have a 7 turnover game, and
Yeah.
I do think that's worth we touched on it a little bit. I don't put a whole bunch of stock in those 19 turnovers because a lot of
Really,
them
why not?
came because the game was out of hand.
Sure, sure, sure. I mean, they
And
didn't end up mattering.
it never got within 15 points. Like some of those turnovers you don't want to have happen, obviously. But Braden has so much put on his plate.
Yeah, 40
And
minutes in this game.
40 minutes, he's like the reason he didn't go to the bench, Painter said, was who's going to bring the ball up. And I think it matters less his raw turnover numbers when he does so much more than a normal player. So 7 sounds gaudy, but a Braden Smith 7, especially in a game that's a 20-point game for most of the second half when a lot of that happened, it just doesn't weigh the same for me. I don't think he was careless with it. I don't think he was particularly bad. I think it was a desperate team that was overplaying
Yeah,
every
they
possible
were
chance.
going
Yeah.
very hard those last 7, 8 minutes
Yeah.
of the game. I mean, they were sending everybody at everybody on Purdue. I was a bit surprised that Braden Smith didn't get a rest when the lead got up to 25, 26 points. Um, Not because that Purdue, wasn't sorry, let me rephrase. I was surprised he did not get a break because Purdue was so in control of the game,
Right.
because things were going so much in their favor. I don't know if, as you said, Painter was like, who else is going to take the ball up?
No, that's literally
But
what he said.
no, no, no,
His
no.
coaches, because his coaches said the same thing to him. It's like, let's give Braden Smith a rest. He told us this after the game. And he
Oh,
goes,
you mean like
who's
the
going to,
assistants? The
yes,
assistants.
his assistant coach, he said, like, his coaches said, hey, let's get Braden a rest. And he goes, who's going to bring the ball up?
I,
I think it's a bigger question season wide. Like, why if Purdue was going to go 22-11 and not win the Big Ten, why did you not rest him a little more,
sure.
develop these other guys? When we get into portal talk, a big reason why some of these names are going to show up on this list is obviously the rotations are the way they are, but there will be people, like one person in particular, that if they leave, a big reason will be, I believe, because the offense runs through Braden and Trey, and there is not room for development around that with the ball in their hands, decision making, stuff that you can get better at, but you need reps for.
Right.
And
Yeah.
there's been
So
an unwillingness for that.
so if you're advising Painter, obviously you're not. And you're telling me
You
I
want a
can
real
get
answer?
Braden
Because I can say now that I would say keep doing what you're
do
doing.
yeah. No, I just mean
You.
if we do go back to that McNeese game, Purdue's up 25 points, you give Braden Smith 1 to 2 minutes of rest. Who are you putting the ball? Whose hands are you putting the ball in?
I mean, my answer is a 2 minute stretch where they might make an 8-0 run. Well, no, I'm with Painter. I don't think you rest him because 2 minutes on the bench is not going to be the difference whether Purdue wins against Houston next week.
Sure, sure.
But
I'm
an
just
8-0
I
run
just
at the 10-minute mark that makes it a game, that
listen.
concerns me.
Listen, I'm playing out a hypothetical. I want to
Mm.
know who on this team
No
you
jelly straw.
trust.
Ben McAdoo.
Sure. Well,
It's just, I mean, Jakari is the answer, even though the real truth is they've not really developed a backup point guard. But
right.
Jakari is the guy that can handle it, that can move, that can get out of the way. Like, he will be a point guard of the future. CJ Cox is not. He's a more controlled, better in the half court with the ball in his hands. Uh, but the answer is you throw Jakari out there with CJ, probably with Miles and Cam, and you just hope that length and speed can get through. I mean, it's at a point where I don't think there was any world where McNeese was going to make a comeback regardless.
No.
I just don't think you get cute. And I think, like,
No, I get that. I
we're
get that.
34 games into the season. Those 2 extra minutes when he's played like 18 games at 40 minutes already, it's a whole lot of a nothing about nothing. Because like you keep
No, I
he's
mean,
gonna play 40 for the rest of the season.
for
I hate to
sure.
break it
Yeah.
to everyone that wants him to like get a breather. I get it. I think there are plenty of opportunities during the regular season where Purdue maybe should have even been okay with like, I don't super care if we lose 3 or 4 games in the Big Ten if it means our guys are better with the ball and more comfortable running offense,
Yeah.
making decisions. But at the same time, the people that are watching the games are the ones, why did our offense look like shit? It's because Braden
Right.
Smith is on the bench.
Well,
And in
and
general,
you
he's
have
shown he
to
can play 40.
right, which not a lot of people can say, but
Playing 40, and he doesn't play just 40 minutes. He
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 plays
does
40.
everything. I'm 40
Yeah.
minutes. Yeah, he plays
Yeah, he's a
and
man.
decides
He's 40.
every possession is a Braden Smith
Yeah.
decision. So like I get you want to give the guy a rest, but instead just give him his flowers. And like
Sure.
don't look at the 7 turnovers as some asterisk on the way he played a game or his efficiency numbers at some point. Because, like, it's just one of those things where the way this team is built, the way it's been developed, that's what Purdue is.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's Trey and it's Braden.
I talked about this um on my other podcast, Boiler Alert.
Boiler, what?
Boiler Alert.
Oh,
That we judge Braden on such a curve, on such a high level that we do other people. It is so similar to how we looked at games Zach Edey had over the last 2 years. You Zach Edey would go to the bench with like 16 and 15, and we'd be like, "Well, that was a pedestrian game for him. Like, what happened?" Meanwhile, you know, Purdue won by 20, and he was able to get a breather. Whereas you look out here, Braden Smith playing 40 minutes against McNeese, had 10 points, 5 assists, 4 rebounds. Again, turned it over 8 times, but that's okay. You look at other things that he did, he still was a huge, gigantic positive in this game. Some of those turnover numbers can frustrate you, but as you said, so many of them came at the end when they're just rushing him, rushing him, rushing him, and they didn't matter. They didn't matter. Like if he had 6 turnovers in the first half and Purdue was all of a sudden down by 6, by 8 points, then you're like, well, what is going on? We got to do
right.
something. But it didn't matter because he had put Purdue in a position to win. And so if he turns it over a couple times at the end, who gives a shit? I mean, that's what it comes down to.
Correct. Yep. Yeah. And like he's doing more on the defense. Like, not only is he playing 40 minutes, he's playing a lot harder 40 minutes because defensively he has
Yeah.
been really on it.
He's
Part
been
of
locked in.
why McNeese and High Point didn't have a bunch of success was Braden's intensity to start the game.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, those defensive stats and what you do on defense, if you don't watch the game, if you're just a box score watcher, if you're going, oh, I didn't see it, let me see who played well, who didn't, you miss so much of what he does. I mean, he's picking pockets. He's out there forcing them into tougher passes, forcing them into angles that they don't want to be in. And you can't put that in a box score. You can't truly say how much he meant to the team unless you watch the game and unless you know this Purdue team. And to remove him from this team would be catastrophic.
Picking pockets,
Yeah.
picking roll, picking your nose, the great
Yeah.
P's.
The 3 P's of basketball right there.
3 P's.
So anything else about this first weekend of the NCAA tournament we didn't talk about that you want to touch on? As you said, we are not talking Houston today. We're going to record later in the week to give you another one just focused on Houston, because we know that is a big game that is coming up Friday at approximately midnight Eastern time.
10:30. It's going to be a 10:30 tip, baby.
10:09 officially.
It's going to be
but
a 10:30 tip.
I did see.
It's going to
Chris
be
Foreman.
a 10:52 tip.
I did see Chris Foreman tweeted, I don't know why it's 10:09. It's clearly going to be 10:30 or so. And it's like, well, yeah, basketball games don't really
We'll
go
have
2
time
hours
for
anymore.
dinner, Ledman.
Yes. And if you've
We'll
been a long
have time
time
for dinner.
a long time viewer listener of the podcast, you know I lost a bet to Casey because the Daniel Jacobson rumors started ratcheting up when he started going through the layup line. So I do owe him a dinner, and as
You
he says, we've got plenty of time.
you damn near lost it before we turned our computers off.
I know. I
There
know.
were videos about it, stories, tweets, people in stands clamoring for the big tall man
I
everywhere.
no, and I think I covered a game the very next day after we made
Mm-hmm.
that bet, and it was he was in the layup line, and you're in the row in front of me and over to the left of me,
Mm-hmm.
so you can't hear the people that are behind me. About 4 or 5 guys who are always behind me. They're going, "Hey, is that Jacobson in line? Is he doing layups? I don't think he's done
Is he
that
ready?
before." No, and the guy next to him goes, "No, he hasn't been out there. You think we could pull the shirt?" I'm like, "Oh my god, I'm screwed." I'm like, I'm gonna lose this bet. So yes, I will be buying
Yep.
Casey dinner Friday evening. Dealer's choice, so it's up to him. But
The internet
you know,
continues.
yeah,
Uh, I do think, like, speaking of like giving people their roses, Trey Kaufman-Ren, I'm gonna say quietly because it as far as like attention that he deserves, it's not lived up to how good he's been.
not at all.
Um, I I was talking to an assistant coach before the day before, and we're talking about McNeese, what they do on defense, all the scary stuff, and I just kind of I'm like, TKR is like the antidote to all that, right? And he goes, I don't know. Mhm. And like, and that's
Poker
like,
face.
yeah, and it's like, yeah, we're gonna put him the ball in the middle. They're gonna be rotated, and if they don't rotate, he's gonna score. And if they do rotate, because they love to over rotate, we're gonna be ready by moving people around, getting like the execution and game plan of McNeese was so good, and it all revolves around what Trey can do. His ability to be uber efficient inside, on the move, on the block, in the middle, on the short roll, even on the perimeter a little bit. If he backs down a guy, his ability to not stay stationary while drawing doubles the way big post guys do makes him a nightmare. And
Yeah,
I guarantee you, if Purdue beats Houston on Friday, the story on Friday night and Saturday from national media is not going to be about Braden Smith, even though he will have to play well. It will be about Trey Kaufman-Ren, double double, 25 plus points, carving up a Houston team that, in some fashions, is McNeese on ultra steroids. They
okay.
they don't have great size, even though they have shot blockers everywhere. It's very weird. But Trey is the kind of guy that can find space, find openings for other guys, create all around, and everything evolves around him. Like, I was very optimistic about Kaufman-Ren starting the year. He's more than performed these last 2 months, scoring over 60%,
Yeah,
20 plus a night. The assist decision making has just been, he is an All American. It's
I
not going
yeah
to say it. He is absolutely one of the 15 best players in the country.
for sure.
And the idea that him and Smith are both juniors is insane.
Yeah, when you look at the way Trey Kaufman has played this season, obviously it's been phenomenal. But as you pointed out, just the last couple months, you look at from February on, from I mean even the end of January, February, I'm January 31st, Purdue played IU, he got 23 points. From that game forward, he has only scored less than 20 on 2 occasions. The game at IU where he scored 9 and the game versus Rutgers where he scored 16. Keep in mind,
In 26 minutes.
Purdue won that game by 29 points and he only played 26 minutes. So he clearly would have gotten to 20 if necessary.
He
But
was
other
8
than
of 10
that,
that game.
yeah, other than that, he's been over 20 points every game. And his rebounding really has gotten better throughout the year. I mean, he has the occasional game where it doesn't go, but I mean, over his last I think 7 games or 6 games, 8, 7, 7, 9, 8, and 15. So the games that matter most, the tournament games, the games against tough opponents, like Illinois, he has really stepped up. And it is a shame that he did not get on the top center watch list or the top power forward watch list. It's just because he plays that weird tweener position. Each of the other lists is probably like, I don't know, put him on yours. I don't know, put him on yours. And nobody did. And he is suffering from a national profile because of it. I don't think he
He's not
cares. The
suffering. Just to
more,
be clear, legitimately, the dude does not care.
no.
And
Did you
and he's the only
see the
person in the
interview?
locker room that I would say that about.
Did you
Yeah,
see the interview
yes.
where they asked him about High Point?
Mhm.
And he goes, a lot of people were picking High Point. What did you think about that? He goes, oh, I just don't pay attention to people who don't know about basketball. That's
Mhm.
all that is. And
Mhm.
you're like,
Mhm.
okay,
Said it to
perfect
guys who
answer.
picked High Point.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Sorry,
every time you,
our lovely field of 68 people, actually.
that's
So,
correct. Every time I listen to Trey, I become away more impressed with not only him as a player, but him as a person. He's so thoughtful. He's so um, knowledgeable about the game. And also, I mean, he's not afraid to take a beat and really think about a question before he answers it. You know, you see a lot of athletes just kind of like, the question is finished. I'm going to barrel ahead
right.
and I'm going to eventually get to something. Whereas Trey will
Usually sports
pause.
cliches.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what they're
Well,
searching for. Which
yeah,
one? Which one can
yeah.
I uncan here?
Yeah, but I mean, Trey gives you a real answer. He really thinks things through, and I'm with you. I don't think he gets the credit he deserves, but I will admit I expected a lot out of him this year.
Mm-hmm.
I did not expect this.
It I it's like the impact is closer to Zach Edey than we're probably all prepared for.
Yeah,
You don't have the defensive end, but like offensively, he's carrying. I mean, he's carrying the efficiency load in tandem with Braden Smith kind of being forced to not be efficient
yeah.
just because of how everything
The
sets up and
nature
all
of what he's
Braden has
asked to
to do.
do.
So like you really do need to think of those two as a pair when you're talking about stuff like that. But like it works because Trey has been so damn good at every level on offense. And now that he's rebounding the ball, like it's made a significant improvement on this team.
Hmm.
And the kind of thing that folds into it is I do want to, this is Matt Painter. I asked, and he kind of got X and O's cute with it after the game. When you're wanting to get in arguments about why doesn't Painter make adjustments? Why don't he change nothing? Why
I love that
always
you.
the
I love
same?
that you sound like the stereotypical caller from an SEC football
Bloomington?
show.
Oh.
Why ain't he running the ball more?
Why he do that? So pretty much the entire first half, this is a little bit Boda Boda is their shot blocker, and they did a pretty good job of limiting some of the pick and roll early with Trey Kaufman keeping the ball out of his hands. Because with Caleb First out there, they put Boda Boda on first. Boda Boda can ignore first.
Sure.
So now instead of playing, four on three after a short roll, what they're running into is all of a sudden the best shot blocker on the team, one of the best in the nation, is just clogging up the lane, taking away that role for Trey. And the pick and roll is all of a sudden like, oh, this doesn't look great because there's not space down there because there's
Hmm.
just this giant 7-footer eating up. And they're allowed to do that because Caleb isn't a threat. So you can put a guy who just lobs on. But once Cam Heidi came in at the 4, they can't hide
Yeah.
Boda Boda on the 4. They have to take him to Trey. It actually showed up at first when they had to take him to Berg. And those 2 late baskets were on Boda Boda dropping. Braden Smith's little throw up to Berg at the end of the half is because Boda Boda was the only guy there. Smith engaged him. He threw a ball up. Berg is right there. Berg got another basket in a similar capacity because when Boda's out there, they have to play that heavy drop. And Braden Smith and Trey Kaufman-Ren eat heavy drops for breakfast
That's
and
true.
lunch
True.
and dinner.
And
Also, the
and
food
gonna
at Providence
midnight
concession,
snack.
terrible. Awful. What are we doing? Terrible.
What, like
Worst
the
arena
media
food in
food,
my
or
life.
did they give you like a concession
It
coupon?
was concession vouchers. It was terrible. The food, like just a
Terrible.
bad showing.
Yeah. Well, okay, what was it?
Pretzels were hard and dry and overcooked.
The worst.
Fries were inedible. Just like they
That's
had been
tough.
baked hours ago.
Ooh.
Chicken strips that were like you chewed really hard to get through the breading just to get to the other really hard side of the breading. Not
Well,
not what we're
in
looking for.
in fairness, I'm not sure Providence known for their food. I'm
It's a
not sure
big
what they're
major
known for, but
metropolis. I like
what?
concession stands
Whoa,
are
whoa,
supposed to be,
whoa!
but
A
Providence isn't a
big,
major
ma-
metropolis.
a big, a big major metropolis. Come on,
Don't don't
come on.
don't don't Baltimore up your nonsense here.
There, there are not enough people in Rhode Island to come to me and take me down. There are like 4 people in that state.
Why? Okay,
Come on.
fine. But the adjustment Matt Painter made is we're going to start Cam Heidi so they can't cross switch. Now it
Yep.
sounds simple, sure, but it takes different sets. It takes a whole offense playing this, and like it's a willingness to do that. That is a adjustment. One
Yeah.
that entirely worked the entire second half for the whole game. So stop it.
I will ask one question and then we can get out of here because I feel like we're probably running long for what we're doing here tonight. Do you think Purdue adjusts the starting lineup going into the game this Friday?
No.
We all love Caleb first, but do you just stick with it and see how it works? I have not gone in depth on Houston to see what kind of matchup makes more sense, but certainly we can all agree Camden Heidi is playing better than Caleb first right now.
Yeah, and like it's the spacing thing. It's just because like I talked to
Yeah.
PJ Thompson about this, and like I'm like with the Heidi stuff, spacing just becomes king in the tournament, right? He's like, yeah, there's no. It's why Mason played more in the
Oh,
NCAA
yeah.
tournament every year. Like every year, Mason would fall out of the lineup, lose his starting spot, blah blah blah. And tournament time comes around, and we go, "Hey Mason, would you like to play 30 minutes and stand in the corner? We would love that." And now that's Cam Heidi.
Just your annual reminder that you and I were always on different sides of who was better, Caleb first or Mason Gillis. I was a Mason Gillis proponent from the very beginning. You were a Caleb first proponent, and I'm not always right when it comes to basketball, especially with a guy like you. But I have to say I was right on that one.
Why do we have to keep comparing Purdue players to one another? I don't know why.
It's just
We
how
have to
it's done.
tear someone else
Oh, I'm not
down
tearing somebody down.
to
I'm
build up
lifting
Mason
someone
Gillis.
up. I'm
But
lifting
yes,
someone
fair-
up.
Yes, nah, good job. Yes.
But yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see if that continues when we face Houston.
Yeah. And because Houston does shoot the 3 so well, it'll be interesting to see if you just want perimeter anyway. I think you probably still throw Caleb out just because you can kind of control those minutes early, see what they're doing, react. You can bring Cam Heidi in. So I think in general, energy and size is good to start a game.
Sure.
But I could definitely see them switch, and I could definitely see them just second half again, start with Heidi, stay with Heidi.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe for the rest of the tournament, forever long, that goes.
Yeah. Yep. And we hope it is 4 more games.
Sneak peek. I'm more confident than I think we're comfortable with.
Oh, there we go. That if that doesn't keep you watching for and listening for the next episode, I don't know what will. We'll hang on it. We'll hang a little put a pin in that, and we'll come back to it next time. Words are hard, especially when you've been
I didn't
talking
know
for
where
almost
you
an
were
hour.
going for it.
I didn't either. Sometimes I'm
Hang
like
a
Michael
banner.
Scott.
Let's hang a
I'm like
banner.
Michael Scott.
Let's
Sometimes I
hang a
start a
banner.
sentence. Sometimes I start a sentence, don't know where it's going to go. I have to catch up with it. But, for Casey and myself, thanks so much for listening this time, folks. We'll join you.